Las Vegas has always sold itself as the city that never sleeps, a neon paradise where anyone, no matter how much cash they carried, could live like a king for a weekend. But today, something feels off. Walk down the Las Vegas Strip and you'll notice what millions of tourists have quietly realized: the streets are thinner, the energy is weaker, and entire sections look empty on purpose. This isn't just bad luck or a temporary slump. Behind the flashing lights and billion-dollar casinos, there's a deliberate plan that's slowly killing the soul of Sin City. For decades, cheap buffets, free parking, and complimentary drinks made Vegas the people's playground. Now those traditions are disappearing, replaced by skyrocketing room rates, endless resort fees, and a corporate grip that puts profits before people. The numbers don't lie. Visitor traffic is falling, projects sit half-finished, and locals whisper that the Strip is becoming a ghost of itself. So here's the uncomfortable question: why would Vegas be empty on purpose? And more importantly, what proof do we have that the Strip is dying right before our eyes? In this video, we'll peel back the curtain, exposing the history, the corporate takeover, the evidence, and the impact on the people who once gave this city its magic. Stick around, because by the end, you'll see that Vegas isn't dying by accident, it's dying by design. To understand why Las Vegas looks empty on purpose today, we first have to remember what it used to be. For decades, Vegas wasn't about luxury brands or $20 cocktails, it was about escape. Back in the 1980s and 1990s, the Strip was alive in a way that felt almost magical. Families piled into cars, newlyweds flew in on cheap tickets, and business travelers found excuses to extend their stays. The moment you landed, Vegas promised you could forget your real life and step into another world. Casinos competed fiercely for your attention, not just with games, but with generosity. Hotels offered rooms for as little as $29 a night, often throwing in free meals or show tickets just to get you through the door. Buffets became legendary, with endless prime rib shrimp cocktails and desserts for less than $10. Walking into a resort meant being greeted by free drinks, smiling staff, and the feeling that even if you only had $50 in your pocket, you could still play, still eat, still belong. Parking lots where free shuttles were abundant, and the Strip felt like it belonged to everyone. The magic wasn't just in the lights, it was in the accessibility. Tourists came from small towns across America, from Europe, even from Asia, all because Vegas was the one place where ordinary people could feel extraordinary. A factory worker from Ohio could sit at the same blackjack table as a millionaire. A college student could splurge on a buffet and feel like royalty. People didn't come for exclusivity, they came because Vegas made excess available to all. This openness built the city's reputation. The slogan, "What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas," wasn't just clever marketing. It was a reflection of the freedom people felt when they arrived. The Strip was crowded, noisy, chaotic, but that was part of the charm. You could hear the clinking of coins from slot machines, smell the mix of cigar smoke and cheap perfume, and feel the energy of people chasing luck. Every corner had something to lure you in. Free shows, dancing fountains, entertainers on the street. Even losing money didn't sting as much, because the experience itself was worth the price. Back then, casino owners knew something that Wall Street seems to have forgotten. Today, you didn't have to squeeze every dollar out of a customer. You just had to make them feel welcome, make them feel part of the spectacle. The profits came because people stayed longer, spent more, and told everyone back home about the time they lived like a king in Vegas. This era wasn't perfect. The city was still fueled by gambling losses and big business, but there was a sense of balance. Corporate greed hadn't yet erased the magic. Think of Las Vegas in 1995. The Mirage's erupting volcano drew huge crowds. The Bellagio fountains were brand new and mesmerizing, and cheap food deals were plastered on every corner. Tourists filled sidewalks shoulder to shoulder, and it seemed impossible to imagine the Strip ever running empty. For many, those years defined the true identity of Vegas: flashy, excessive, but accessible. But that golden era was also fragile. The very generosity that made Vegas so irresistible would soon be seen as a liability by the corporations that came next. And as we'll see in the next chapter, when Wall Street stepped in, the dream of Vegas as a playground for the masses began to vanish. What replaced it was colder, more calculated, and it set the stage for why the Strip looks empty on purpose today. The turning point for Las Vegas came when the city stopped being run by colorful casino bosses and started being run by corporate boardrooms on Wall Street. In the early 2000s, major investment groups and hospitality conglomerates took control of the Strip, and everything began to change. What had once been a playground designed to lure in everyday visitors suddenly became a carefully engineered business model built around squeezing maximum profit per head. For decades, casinos operated on a simple principle: keep people happy, and inside the building, and the gambling losses would pay for everything else. That's why buffets were cheap. Parking was free, and drinks flowed without a thought. But to a corporate accountant, that philosophy looked wasteful. Wall Street saw every free perk as money left on the table. And when the balance sheets landed in their hands, the decision was made. Vegas wasn't going to be about fun anymore, it was going to be about revenue. Slowly, the city's generosity began to disappear. First came the resort fees, hidden charges that often doubled the cost of a hotel stay. Parking lots that had always been free suddenly required $20, $30, even $40 a day. Buffets, once a symbol of Vegas excess, started vanishing, replaced by celebrity chef restaurants, where a single entree could cost what an entire family buffet once did. And drinks, no longer free-flowing. Cocktail servers now walked the floor with orders to check if players were gambling enough before they got their next round. The transformation wasn't just about money, it was about identity. Where Vegas once welcomed the average tourist, corporations decided the city should chase high rollers, convention guests, and international elites. Ordinary families were quietly pushed out. The Strip was redesigned for luxury branding, lined with Gucci, Prada, Louis Vuitton, and gourmet dining that appealed to those with unlimited credit cards. The goal was no longer to create a sense of belonging, but to create exclusivity. Insiders who worked during this transition remember the cultural shift. One former casino manager admitted Vegas isn't built for dreamers anymore, it's built for shareholders. That single sentence captures the reality. Every decision, whether to shut down a buffet, add a fee, or increase table minimums, was about maximizing quarterly profits, not long-term loyalty. The irony is brutal. By trying to appeal only to the wealthiest customers, Vegas began alienating the millions of regular visitors who made the city famous in the first place. The couple from Texas who used to drive in for a cheap weekend found themselves priced out. The retiree who once spent hours playing nickel slots discovered that machines now swallowed bills faster with worse odds and gave fewer payouts. Even parking the car became a painful expense. Wall Street also introduced a ruthless cycle of construction and demolition. Projects like City Center, which cost over $9 billion, symbolized this new era: massive, expensive, and built more for prestige than for people. Investors gambled with real estate and mega resorts the same way gamblers once played roulette. Some projects succeeded, but many others stalled or collapsed under debt. Entire skeletons of unfinished hotels stood on the Strip like ghosts of failed promises. Meanwhile, the people who worked in Vegas, dealers, bartenders, performers, felt the squeeze. Wages stagnated while the cost of living in the city skyrocketed. Locals who once thrived in a tourist-friendly economy now struggled to afford housing, even as corporations reported record profits. The shift wasn't just economic, it was cultural. The community that built the Vegas identity was being sidelined in favor of faceless investors. By the late 2010s, the evidence was everywhere. The Strip was shinier, more polished, but emptier. Instead of crowds overflowing the sidewalks, you saw high-priced restaurants half full. Instead of casinos buzzing with middle-class players, you found rows of high-limit machines waiting for whales who rarely came. The energy was gone, replaced by a sterile luxury that didn't fit the city's wild past. And yet for the corporations, this wasn't failure, it was strategy. Vegas was being reshaped, deliberately emptied out of its soul, and rebuilt as a showroom for global elites. But, as the next chapter reveals, there's a cost to this strategy. The numbers don't lie, and the proof that the Strip is dying is now impossible to ignore. The clearest sign that the Las Vegas Strip is dying isn't hidden, it's visible to anyone who dares to look. Empty sidewalks, half-finished projects, shuttered attractions, and declining visitor numbers all paint a picture that can no longer be denied. Once considered the beating heart of American tourism, the Strip is now showing unmistakable symptoms of decay. Start with the numbers. According to the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, overall visitor traffic has been declining for years despite population growth nationwide. While Vegas still attracts millions annually, the average length of stay is shrinking and repeat visits are dropping. In 2024, hotel occupancy rates fell below 80% during months that used to be peak season. Compare that to the 1990s when rooms were booked solid, and it becomes clear people aren't coming back the way they used to. Then there are the projects that symbolize ambition gone wrong. Perhaps the most infamous is the Fontainebleau Las Vegas, a towering blue glass skyscraper that stood unfinished for over a decade, looming over the Strip like a monument to corporate overreach. After changing hands multiple times, it finally opened in late 2023, but the damage had been done. For years, tourists passed by its hollow frame, a daily reminder that Vegas had lost the unstoppable momentum it once enjoyed. And Fontainebleau isn't alone. Across the Strip, ambitious megaprojects have been delayed, scaled down, or abandoned entirely, leaving gaps where there should have been energy. Even the casinos that remain open show cracks in the facade. Walk through the gaming floors of once famous resorts, and you'll find rows of slot machines sitting idle, cocktail waitresses with no orders to fill, and table minimums so high that casual players are pushed out. Locals and longtime visitors alike complain that the thrill has been drained away. As one former regular put it, the Strip isn't alive anymore, it's on life support. The closures of iconic buffets are another undeniable sign. From the legendary buffets at Circus Circus to mid-tier offerings at Mirage, many have been shut down, never to return. These weren't just food options, they were symbols of accessibility, reminders that Vegas was for everyone. Their disappearance signals a city that no longer caters to the average visitor. Meanwhile, crime and safety concerns have crept closer to the Strip. Reports of theft scams and violent incidents have increased, further discouraging families from returning. Once marketed as a safe playground, Vegas is now caught in a paradox: luxury-priced experiences in an environment that feels increasingly unstable. The transformation of retail space is equally telling. Where quirky souvenir shops and neon-lit attractions once stood, luxury fashion outlets now dominate. Louis Vuitton, Gucci, Prada. They line the Strip like a shopping mall for billionaires. But here's the catch. These stores often sit empty, because the very elite customers they target already shop in Paris, New York, or Dubai. The result is a hollowed-out retail experience that alienates ordinary tourists without truly satisfying the wealthy. The impact is visible in the city's culture. Street performers who once entertained crowds for tips now perform to thinner audiences. Smaller casino hotels off the Strip, like those on Fremont Street, struggle to compete, while mega resorts hoard attention and resources. The vibrancy that once made Vegas unique has been sterilized, replaced with a bland corporate sheen that feels out of touch with its history. Even the entertainment industry along the city's lifeblood shows cracks. Resident shows by global superstars, once surefire attractions, now battle with inconsistent ticket sales. Concerts and sporting events fill arenas temporarily, but they don't bring the long-term loyalty that traditional gambling once guaranteed. Instead of a constant buzz, the Strip now experiences peaks and valleys, surges during big weekends, followed by long stretches of emptiness. Perhaps the most damning evidence is what locals say. Longtime residents and workers, people who lived through the city's golden years, describe a Strip that feels hollow. It used to be electric. Now it feels forced, one bartender lamented. Their stories confirm what the statistics show: the magic is fading. The Strip isn't collapsing overnight, but the warning signs are undeniable. Projects stalled, crowds thinning, traditions erased it, all adds up to proof that Las Vegas is no longer the unstoppable force it once was. And, as we'll see in the next chapter, this decline isn't just hurting tourists, it's reshaping the lives of the very people who built the city's identity. Behind the flashing lights of the Strip lies a community that bears the real cost of Vegas's transformation. While tourists notice the higher prices and emptier casinos, the people who live and work here feel the decline far more painfully. For decades, Las Vegas thrived on a simple promise. If you worked hard in the hospitality industry, you could build a stable life. But as the Strip has hollowed out, so too has that promise. Casino workers, dealers, waitresses, performers, and janitors once formed the backbone of the city. Many were proud members of unions like Culinary Workers, Union Local 226, which secured good wages and benefits during the boom years. A dealer at the Mirage or a server at Caesar's Palace could raise a family, own a modest home, and send kids to college. But as corporations tightened their grip, that security eroded. Wages stagnated even as housing costs in Las Vegas skyrocketed. The pandemic worsened the trend, and the so-called recovery only deepened inequalities. Today, many workers who serve cocktails to millionaires on the Strip can't afford rent just a few miles away. Locals describe a city split in two. On one side, the glittering resorts promising luxury to out-of-towners. On the other, sprawling neighborhoods where homelessness, crime, and poverty are rising. In 2024, the city reported one of the fastest-growing homeless populations in the country, with thousands living in makeshift camps just blocks from billion-dollar casinos. The contrast is jarring, tourists sipping $25 margaritas, while nearby families sleep in cars. The cultural fabric of the city has also been strained. Longtime residents feel disconnected from the Strip they once embraced. Many remember when locals were welcomed with discounts and perks to keep them engaged. Now locals complain they're treated as an afterthought, priced out of the very attractions they helped build. As one lifelong Vegas resident put it, "It's not our city anymore, it belongs to the corporations." This disconnect extends to small businesses too. Independent restaurants, quirky souvenir shops, and off-strip attractions have struggled or shut down altogether, unable to compete with the corporate giants. Fremont Street and downtown Las Vegas, once havens for locals and budget travelers, have seen waves of closures, while mega resorts dominate marketing dollars. The result is a homogenized city where individuality is replaced with brand uniformity. The social costs ripple outward. Schools are underfunded, public services strained, and crime rates tick upward. Police report increases in thefts and assaults in areas surrounding the Strip, fueled in part by economic desperation. Meanwhile, the city pours resources into protecting corporate interests, keeping the Strip safe for convention guests, while neighborhoods outside the tourist corridor are left vulnerable. There's also a psychological toll. For many who grew up in Vegas, the Strip was a source of pride, a symbol that their city mattered on the global stage. But now watching it decline feels personal. Families who once boasted about working at iconic resorts now tell their kids to seek opportunities elsewhere. The younger generation no longer sees a future in hospitality. Instead, they see a city that chewed up their parents' livelihoods while rewarding only distant shareholders. The warning signs are eerily similar to what happened in Atlantic City. That once thriving casino hub in New Jersey collapsed under the weight of overexpansion, corporate greed, and declining visitors. Today, many fear Las Vegas could follow the same path. Already boarded up storefronts and empty lots on the Strip echo the slow death Atlantic City experienced decades ago. Yet despite the hardships, there are still voices of resilience. Some locals fight to preserve community spaces, support small businesses, and diversify the economy beyond gambling. But even they admit the struggle is uphill. When corporate profits dictate city policy, residents often feel powerless. As one former cocktail waitress summed it up, "Vegas will survive, but it won't be the Vegas we knew." This is the hidden truth behind the city's emptiness. It isn't just tourists who are being shut out. The very people who built the identity of Las Vegas, the workers, the residents, the dreamers, are being pushed aside. And as the next chapter reveals, the question now is whether Las Vegas can reinvent itself in time or if the Strip's decline is already irreversible. The question everyone asks is simple. What comes next for Las Vegas? Can the Strip reinvent itself, or is the decline too far gone? The truth is complicated. On one hand, city leaders and corporate executives insist that Vegas is simply evolving. On the other, the mounting evidence shows a city struggling to find its identity in the 21st century. One path forward has been the push to diversify beyond gambling. The rise of sports betting legalized nationwide in 2018 changed the industry forever. Where once Vegas held a monopoly on legal betting, now anyone with a smartphone can gamble from their couch. To survive, Vegas has pivoted toward experiences you can't replicate on a screen. The arrival of professional sports teams like the Vegas Golden Knights in 2017 and the Raiders in 2020 marked a new era. Stadiums packed with fans brought energy back to the city, at least temporarily. Concert residencies by megastars like Adele and U2 at the Sphere have also drawn crowds, creating spectacles that remind the world Vegas can still deliver once-in-a-lifetime events. But even these successes carry risks. Sporting events and concerts generate huge spikes in visitors, yet they don't fill hotels or casinos year-round. Locals point out that the Strip feels vibrant during a Raiders game, but eerily empty the next weekend. Vegas is learning the hard way that sporadic surges don't replace steady tourism. Conventions and business travel remain another lifeline. The Consumer Electronics Show, CES, and other massive gatherings still bring tens of thousands to the city. Corporate planners love Vegas for its infrastructure and capacity. But as remote work and virtual conferences gain ground, some fear the convention business won't be as reliable as it once was. City planners have also emphasized downtown revitalization as a solution. Fremont Street has been rebranded with new attractions, art displays, and tech-driven experiences. The city wants locals to feel connected again, while offering tourists something beyond the Strip. Yet critics argue this effort is a band-aid, not a cure. Downtown may bring fresh energy, but it can't fully offset the decline of the Strip, which remains the face of Las Vegas worldwide. Meanwhile, the reliance on luxury branding is backfiring. The idea was simple to attract. Wealthy international travelers and profits would follow. But the global elite already have options in Macau, Dubai, Monaco, and other gambling havens. Without its traditional middle-class base, Vegas risks becoming a hollow imitation of itself, too expensive for the average visitor, too generic for the super-rich. As one critic bluntly put it, if Vegas tries to be everywhere, it'll end up being nowhere. The future may depend on whether the city can rediscover the balance it once had. Experts argue that reintroducing affordable options, whether Buffett's reasonably priced shows or discounted hotel rates, could restore loyalty from everyday Americans. Others suggest a broader rebrand positioning Vegas, not just as a gambling city, but as a hub for technology, entertainment, and culture. The success of the Sphere hints at this possibility, proving that innovation can still capture global attention. But the greatest challenge is trust. For years, corporations have nickel-and-dimed visitors, eroding goodwill. To bring people back, Vegas must convince them that it's worth the trip again. That means rolling back some of the hidden fees, restoring a sense of value, and remembering that the city was built on accessibility, not exclusion. The stakes are enormous. Tourism isn't just an industry in Vegas, it is the lifeline of the entire city. If the Strip continues to empty out, the consequences for workers, residents, and businesses will be devastating. But if leaders make bold choices, Vegas could yet stage one of the most dramatic comebacks in American history. After all, this is a city built on reinvention. So the question remains, will Las Vegas find a way to rise again? Or is this the final act of the world's most famous Strip? The signs are there, the proof is undeniable, but the ending hasn't been written yet. Las Vegas has always thrived on illusions, bright lights, endless energy, and the promise that the next spin or the next hand could change your life. But behind the neon glow, the reality is harder to ignore. The Strip looks empty on purpose, not because people lost interest, but because the city's masters redesigned it that way. What once belonged to everyone has been reshaped into a playground for a few, and in the process, the magic that made Vegas irresistible has begun to fade. The evidence is everywhere: rising fees, shuttered buffets, declining crowds, half-finished projects, and a community struggling to survive in the shadow of billion-dollar resorts. This isn't the slow decay of chance, it's the result of deliberate choices of corporate strategies that traded loyalty for short-term profit. And now, the world can see the consequences. The Strip is dying not by accident, but by design. The question is, what do you think? Is Las Vegas just going through another reinvention? Or has it crossed a line it can never come back from? Would you still take a trip to the Strip today, knowing what it's become? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear your story. And if you found this breakdown eye-opening, don't forget to subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next deep dive. Because the truth about Vegas isn't just about one city, it's a warning for every place where corporate greed overshadows human experience.